What's up, everybody? Welcome to Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. I'm your host, Todd Rosales, and as you can see, we're on location from the Flowery cultivation facility here in Homestead, Florida. I have the man who helped design this facility, and I can't hide who my guest is today. He's got his iconic hat on. Please welcome David Polley of Preferred Gardens. Thanks for joining
Thank
me.
you. Thank you for having me.
See, now, you notice how I had to do it separately after they made differently after they made me restart
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
yeah. The first one was the good one.
It
That
was.
one was all right.
It's lost in the ether. Maybe the editor
Yeah.
can get that. David, man, I really appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday to sit down with us. I know you've been waiting like 4 hours for this thing to get going.
It's
So,
all good. We're working. We're in the grow, so we're comfortable.
dude, I'm very excited to talk to you because I've been doing this show for 3 years, and it's funny. Until I spoke to Ted Lighty, I never felt like I thought I knew the industry, but I didn't know the industry because there are the people who weren't getting the attention because you guys didn't have the big budgets early on that were the true people who bootstrapped their business in this industry, grew it brick by brick by brick. And now you guys are starting to get the light shown on you a little bit. And I just wanted to give you a platform to understand your story and talk to you because I think your crop of people that you came out with are really what are going to shape the future of the industry because you knew the cannabis side of it. You knew you knew the weed side of the game, right? You knew that stuff. And then you learned the business side of it. The business side of it can be taught. There's schools for that, right?
Yeah.
Cannabis, yes, it's taught, but the schools are a lot more smaller, harder to find, and the acceptance rate is a little bit lower. So, does that excite you now that you guys are finally starting to get your day in the sun a little bit at least?
Yeah, I wouldn't say excite me. It's actually a uncomfortable situation because we've been growing cannabis illegally, selling cannabis illegally for X amount of years. Ted's my boy.
Yeah.
So you had Ted on the
I had
podcast
10
last,
on
right?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. We've been in the shadows forever, and now it's like let's get uncomfortable because this is what we do, and now we can actually do it on a legal market and let everyone know it came from us. So,
Dude,
I mean, it's nice.
I love that you guys are out there telling your story now and doing all this because I didn't know Ted. I knew Alien Labs and I knew the brand. I knew it was it was super popular and like most people in the culture are fans. And sometimes when something that's popular, you tend to shy away from it a little bit, especially. So,
But
I
you
thought
got
it
to
was,
try it.
I've
Yeah.
tried it. It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's amazing. I've tried it in Florida and California.
Of course.
I haven't told him that. I was hesitant because we were talking about not trying things that are popular. So I told him I was hesitant to try them at first because it was too popular. But my point of that is when I actually got to know Ted and hear him on other podcasts, I became a fan of him. So it
Yeah.
wasn't just the brand. And that's how I'll be honest. When you came to Florida, I did not know Preferred. I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But then I saw your highlights on First Smoke of the Day started hitting my Instagram feed hard. And I'm just like, I like this guy. I don't know anything about your brand, but I like you. And to me, your brand was you, like in the people that you brought into it. But then I just immediately felt an affinity for it.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that's what kind of how my brand's a little bit different is I'm a cultivator.
Yeah.
So not most brands don't grow their own weed, and they don't actually know how to grow. They haven't been growing weed forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I grow the weed, and that's how we kind of built the brand is me showing the process of from seed all the way to flower, smokable flower. And that's kind of where the brand built from. That's how Preferred happened.
So I want to get to the brand because again, I think you are going to shape the way that you're doing licensing, the way that you're doing genetics, the way that you can literally just go into a market. And it's not a lot of brands, most brands have to go into a market and say, I got to pick the best partner because I'm going to give them packaging. You're just like, I can find a place that's just not doing well and turn them around
And make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the coolest part about it.
Leveraging the skill set. I mean, I think anyone should always do that. If you have a skill set, you should leverage it. That's a way to, you know,
And that's how this
stand out.
industry should be. It should be the guys who have been doing it, the weed side of it, finding good partners on the other side of it, and everybody bringing what they know best to the table. People teaching you this business side of it. As I said to Ted, there's gangsters on both sides of the table. There's gangsters in the illegal market, and there are gangsters in the business world. And the ones in the business world sometimes are a little scarier because they're playing by the rules to come after you. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I came across both for sure.
yeah,
A lot of them in the business world now because we're kind of a target. We have intellectual property that's super valuable to someone who wants to start a facility and they just think, oh, it's just a grower. We can just take all his knowledge and cut him out after the fact. Now, once we can do it, we don't need them anymore.
yeah.
They're cut out. So you got to be careful with these contracts.
What's nuts to me is in any other industry, anywhere else in the world, the people who've been doing it for the longest amount of time and doing it at a high level are the ones who are the most sought after and respected. In our industry, like we just forgot about that for some reason. I don't understand how that happened. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of I see how it has happened, but it still baffles me.
Well, we don't have the money to build massive facilities that you need. You know, these
Yeah.
MSOs is really hard to compete with. But at the same time, for some weird reason, they don't like to hire people from the industry, from Prop 215, which was California
Yeah.
medical market, from the medical side of things, people that were doing it illegally. They don't want to hire them. They think we're criminals still, you know?
And that's part of the reason why I like having you guys on the show. There's multiple facets to it, right? You have the lazy stoner stereotype, you have the criminal stereotype, you have all these stereotypes against you, but at the end of the day, candidly, before it even became legal, you guys were business people and you understood the business side of it, and you had been operating businesses in this space for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So like I love where you are now. And I hear you talk about it. Like I hear you talk. I don't, I love going to the garden every day. I love doing this. There's nothing else I want to do. I feel like it's an amazing opportunity because at some point in time, what you love to do, which could have led you down a different path and maybe led you behind bars, became legal. And now you get to do it every day for a living.
Hallelujah.
There's
It's
nobody on the
amazing.
planet that comes from outside of that I think can fight with that kind of passion, fight,
Yeah.
compete against you
Oh
or
no.
anyone else of your
Yeah.
peers.
It's amazing. I mean, it's been a passion forever. I thought I was going to lose it a million times. I've been through all the, you know, raids and robberies and whatever else we had to go through before. And it's like now I feel free, a lot
So
of weight off my shoulders with this, to be honest.
it's got to be able to nice to be able to lay your head on the pillow at night, not have to worry. I mean, the
Yeah.
worst thing you have to worry about is like, oh, we got that HR meeting tomorrow, like
I don't do
did
those.
somebody order donuts for the team tomorrow? It's this
Yeah.
day, National Donut Day. Um so let's take it back to I did listen to podcasts, and I don't need you to rehash all your story, but like talking about your childhood, where you came from. You talked about your cousin getting you into cannabis, and it's funny. I love that you said that he was a degenerate or something. You love him, but he was the one who got you into it.
Oh yeah.
Looking back at your life then, and looking at where when you were a kid and you were growing up, what did you think you were going to do with your life? What did you think you were going to do professionally? Like, and I asked this to Ted, I said, because I know he said I was going to be in weed or I'd be a firefighter where I came from. So it's like, was there another option on the table where it's like, I'm going to do this in the illegally, I'm going to do it and I'm going to just kind of keep doing it as long as I can? Or was there an exit plan? Like, tell me what you thought your trajectory was going to be.
I've always just bet on myself with the cannabis stuff, and I figured I'd do it forever.
So even back in the day, you thought this is
I'd
where you'd end
probably
up.
do construction or something, you know,
It's a good
have
cover.
a couple fake jobs, but I'd always have a grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. So I remember you talking about how at some point in time you kind of being around that scene, and not just weed, like everybody doing like regular drugs. I remember you said you walked in on somebody with a needle in your
Oh
arm and
yeah.
you're like, fuck this. I can't do this shit anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around it. Started focusing on your health, playing sports and stuff. How did weed stay in the mix there? When you dropped the partying and dropped everything else, how was weed the one thing that stayed with
It's
you?
a natural product. It's never been like a drug to me, you know. So like all the other stuff was like, this doesn't seem like a drug. It's something
Yeah.
that, you know, I feel like everyone needs and it's helpful. So I don't know how it really stuck with me. I'm so infatuated with the plant still that I can't get away from it.
It is weird, right? And I can share my experience with that. Is just like, so as I tell people, and it's funny, I think that everybody's tired of hearing this, but like I didn't start really smoking weed regularly till like 22, 23. I started
Yeah.
first time at 16. I picked it up again at 19 in college, but like once a month. And because I grew up on that dare drug mentality, don't do drugs. And then once I graduated and had a real job in sales, I had stress in my life, and like I would smoke it. And it's funny because you know me not being in the culture or really having a background in buying weed, like I would just get whatever I can get from whoever I can get it from. So like, there'd be some Saturdays I'd be hungover and I'd smoke, and it's like I'd have the greatest day ever and I'd be super productive and like get shit done. And then there'd be days where like I just didn't want to get off the couch, and like I couldn't figure out why until 2015 when I went to Colorado for the first time in the legal market and was able to understand why I would feel a certain way when I like, don't get me wrong, it's like grandma's boy. The guy I was buying from would always tell me whatever strain it was, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't believe you.
Well,
How do you know what it is?
that's how the dealers were. You got whatever they had at the time. It wasn't like you could. That's the cool thing about the stores. You can pick and choose through so
The
many,
best.
and if you find what works for you, you can stick with that, or you can stick with a cross that's genetically the same, you know?
So when did like your education on weed start happening when you, because you started in fifth grade, like at some point was it, and I talked to a couple people at this, like for me, I feel like I started it as a drug. And I don't want to say like it was a drug, but I started it end of the night the same way I'd have a glass of whiskey or anything else like that. I would smoke a joint to disconnect
Yeah.
until I started experiencing different strains and educating myself. Then I figured out use cases. I figured out why certain strains I'd smoke on a Saturday morning would have me cleaning the entire house. Like, were you able to figure that out young? And do you think that was a product of just where you grew up because it was part of the culture?
No, when I was a kid, then it was like smoking with the homies, smoking with my
Yeah.
cousins. You know, it was like more of a social thing. And then I just started becoming a major stoner where I just always wanted to be high because I was pretty angry as a kid,
Yeah.
you know, so it helped me not be so angry. And then when I came down from the weed, I'd be angry again. So I just figured out how to not be angry anymore.
Mike Tyson is the best one saying that on Rogan, where he's like, I don't like the guy who I am when I'm not smoking weed, where he's like, that guy is angry, he's
Yeah.
mean and everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
And I understand that because, like, I think people who have tempers, people who grow up in interesting environments like that, like you tend to, your issue is your first snap emotion is anger, right? But if you have the time to kind of suppress that and think it through, you're like, oh, that's not that bad. And I think weed kind of slows that reaction down
I
enough where
agree
you're like,
100%. That
yeah,
it always does that. Yeah.
dude, I feel this so much to me. Like, and I know you said you started playing sports later in life, but this is the one thing that I always found that's crazy when they ban cannabis in athletics. Like, athletes are warriors at the end of the day. Like, granted, not all of them are fighters or anything else, but like if we were in Roman times, those would be the guys that are going to battle.
Yeah.
And
They would need weed.
weed's the ultimate thing for them in between so they can function like a normal civilian.
Rest, recovery, you know, all the stresses and everything else.
That's
Yeah.
cool, man. So when
It's
did
the
you
best.
when did you do anything prior to growing weed, or is that always how you've made your
I
living,
do
so to say?
construction jobs and a
Okay.
bunch, you know, little knickknack stuff there, but I've basically been growing weed most of the time.
Did that end up paying off? So I remember you saying at one point you went from outdoor to indoor and had to build out some houses. Did the construction
Yeah,
education help you
100%.
with
Yeah.
that?
I mean, that's what growers do. They know you have to be a plumber, electrician. You need to know how to do all the handy stuff. That's what happens in these rooms because shit breaks every single day. And if you can't fix it, especially when it was illegal, it's not like I could call a plumber and have him come to my grow. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
we figured it out.
that's cool, man. Like I let see to me, when we look at and you made the comment earlier, a lot of MSOs don't hire people like you because they think the criminal mentality. But at the end of the day, like you guys just had to
Well,
figure it
and
out.
it's a big ego thing too. So a
Yeah.
lot of times what they need is like a consultant, and they need a consultant from the old illegal market. They need someone with like 20 years experience. You know, that's ideal
Yeah.
in this situation. I'm learning stuff still, you know, and I've been in it forever. So like that's who you need. You can't get a textbook person that grows cannabis now because there's no such thing.
But what's a better story to the beginning of the industry? Like if we look back 40, 50 years from now, looking at how the modern legal cannabis industry started, is it a bunch of ex Wall Street guys who came off and raised a bunch of capital and built fucking giant facilities like this? Or is it guys like you that built them in houses, that figured out how to rig piping, that figured out how to rig lighting, that had to move from house to house? I mean, any other industry that we look at, Apple, like Ted loved this. Apple started in a garage, Microsoft started a
Yeah,
garage,
I
Alien Labs
started
started
in
in
a
a garage.
garage.
You started in a garage,
Yeah,
right?
a
Like
shed too.
it's the American story right there.
Yeah,
Like that's a much more romantic story. So to me, I don't understand why the general public doesn't appreciate that story more than True Leaves opening
I think they do.
157th
It just
store.
needs to get out here more, and that's why shout out to you for doing the podcast. It's like
I'm happy
get it
to.
out there, you know.
You guys have the better stories. What I'm gonna talk to some, and don't get me wrong, I've talked to plenty of some ex Wall Street guy who knew a bunch of people with money and then found someone to
They
build a
can talk
facility
good.
for him.
Yeah, they,
Like don't I like talking to those guys about like what they think the public markets and like the public opinion of the stocks and everything, because that's one of the problems to me. And like now I'm getting in bitch mode here, like where I'm on to just complain. Like the unfortunate part is the average person in America, like my friends that are not here with us today, they the cannabis industry to them is True Leaf, Cureleaf, Air, Terracin, because that's what's in the news. That's what's on CNN. So, like, they think they're cool if they're going to True Leaf and they're getting good shit and they probably didn't smoke that much before. So, like, it's unfortunate that when you're in the industry, of the guys like you and Ted and Caleb and Doja and everybody else. And it's like, how do we as an industry lift you guys up and be like, no, like you need to talk to these guys too, because A, they're private, which is better because they can actually run their companies the way they want to. No one else is saying anything.
Yeah.
And B, they have more experience than anybody else. So
Yeah.
that's what I'd
A is
love
the
to see.
biggest one. That's been the biggest problem in this industry is A, when someone can tell you what you can and can't do, and you know what needs to be done, your company's dead. It's just horrible. I
And
mean, I
that
see a lot of friends in that situation. It's just I hope I never have to go down that road.
I love, there's a podcast that I listen to called Business Wars. And one of the coolest thing about it is you hear these stories about founder led companies like back in the day, and like hearing about the days when like Henry Ford ran Ford, and like, you know, the founders found General Mills, and Jim Beam at Jim Beam, and Jack Daniels at Jack
Yeah.
Daniels. Like that's what we're getting to experience now. Like I get to watch Preferred by the founder. I get to watch the business grow by the founder. I get to see you come from California. I
Those
mean,
guys put in the work. Those
yeah,
guys earned it. They built that themselves, basically.
I
Yeah.
love that. To me, that's the American story, and that's what needs to be out there. Talking about all the stuff that you went through to get here, you said something on First Smoke of the Day that I respectfully disagree with, and it's about your intentions. So you're probably gonna disagree with me. You're scared of federal legalization, which I am too, and
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page there. But you said you don't know if you'll be able to do this with federal legalization, and I significantly disagree with you because of all the shit that you've had to go through just to get to be. I mean, there's better seats than the one you're sitting in now. My mom and her friends are watching, but other than that, like to be in the position that you are, I just think it's just going to propose another set of challenges that you're going to overcome, man.
Yeah. I mean, that part's true. Yes. It's just
Well, it's going to suck.
when we're talking about California, we're heavily taxed. I
Yep.
mean, it's outrageous how bad we're taxed to the point where most people are out of business already.
Yeah.
So federal legalization happens. What do they want? They want money. So they're going to take more money and more regulation when it's already over regulated. So what I mean by that is like, am I going to be able to survive through federal legalization? Is
Yeah.
there going to be some stuff that I have to learn? Yes, that's great. I can level up and I'm willing to do that. I'd love to learn stuff and try to figure it out. You know, it's just financially they're almost making it impossible now. So what's going to happen with federal legalization? You know,
It's
I won't take on that investor. That's what I'm getting at. I can't have a guy that I have to be like, hey dad, can I buy this piece of equipment for my grow room? You know, no chance. I'm not getting
yeah, man.
approval. I'm not sitting in an HR room. I grow weed. I'm a weed guy. You know, I'm not gonna be in that board. I know business. I have to learn this and build this business that way, but I just refuse to stand for that, you know?
I get that, man, and I 100% agree with you. It scares the shit out of me because, and there's no model, no state right now that we can point to and say, do it that way and
Yeah.
model it after that, right? California is not in a great shape. The whole West Coast is starting to head that way. Any market that's been mature for a while. And then, you know, everyone gets all excited about these new markets, Missouri, Michigan, and they'll grow. But they'll grow because people are opening their doors and people are
Yeah.
just getting in. But at some point,
I
California
think
is going
they're
to happen to
excited
them.
because they can get the money now. The upfront money, yeah, it's a big cash grab, but I'm not too excited because we're playing the long game here. I'm trying to like I said, I'm not trying not to take on big investors, partners, and have, you know, people that I have to answer to. I'm doing it now. I'm in multiple states now and we're mom and pop. We're doing this out of the house.
California, Florida, Michigan, those
Yeah,
three right now.
Arizona.
Arizona, very
Yeah.
cool, man.
And then be ready for New York.
Hell
I
yeah.
mean, we're going everywhere. Whatever we can possibly do to where we can QC the product how we
I
want it.
hope they give you the ability to like. So to me, I think you might have the ability to do that because of just you just said you're not looking to take on an investor. So like, there's no one who's telling you you need to grow at a certain pace. Like you could just be preferred in 5 states, and then if it doesn't make sense, not go into six, and then when it does, go into six. And I
Yeah.
think that's the
Or
beauty of
pull
the
out if
freedom.
we have to, you know. It's
That's the nice
freedom.
thing. But yeah, just the regulation around federal legalization, it's not even the money, just the regulation, the way that they're going to make you operate. Like you operate here in Florida, like to me, it's a recreational state with a medical costume on, right? Now
Yeah.
there's only 800,000 people, but you can't even use the color red in your packaging and a lot of
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Nothing in flour. Everything has to
why?
be white. And it's
Yeah.
just plain. Doesn't really make sense when you can use red on the wax pen, but you can't on the
So
yeah.
many things don't make sense.
That's how
Not
it always is. They always do that. It's just
it's
they're
like
just winging it.
it's like somebody stood up in the meeting and was like, black and white packaging.
Yeah.
Well, why are we going to do that? Kids, kids, definitely
Yeah,
kids. It's
kids
like,
for
oh
sure.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. No,
It,
you're right.
it
But that's always the case. And sometimes so those things get smoothed out. Others they stick. It might be that way forever.
Yeah, man. But I agree with you. I'm glad that you said it because there are so many people in this industry that are pushing for this legislation to go through and this and that. And I just get scared that there aren't the right people out there that can help regulate this the right way. There aren't the right people that aren't going to have their best interests in mind. And candidly, the US government has never done anything right the first time.
No.
Like
Yeah.
and I've interviewed people close. I had to go to the not the DMV, I had to go to the Social Security office one day. And just the experience I had there, I'm like, this is what they have. I'm in a government facility. This is my experience. And now these people are going to regulate one of my favorite things in the world to do, to go into a dispensary. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, we'll see. We could get lucky. Banking would be nice.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big hurdle. People have found ways around it, of course, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and luckily I have a lot of people that I work with that give me information on the stuff that's not my forte, but you know, we figure it out.
Yeah.
We just pay the cost for it now. I mean, it's very expensive.
Have you ever, so again, I don't know what you do in life, but the other thing I've heard too is like you personally might have a hard time getting a mortgage or a car loan or something
Can't
along those lines.
literally can't. So
That's the craziest part that people don't talk about. We all talk about cannabis companies losing their bank accounts, but we don't talk about the people who work for them
yeah,
losing their bank accounts
yeah.
too.
So it's all hard money loans. And right
Yeah.
now the cost of money is through the roof,
Yeah.
you know, so it's I mean, we get screwed still. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a huge plus, that part.
It would be. Do you think, I mean, let's say in a perfect world, this would never happen. Federal legalization happens. They don't destroy us with regulation and taxes. Interstate commerce opens up. Do you think your focus would to be more capacity in California to export it out, or would you still want to grow in different portions of the state the way that you are?
I mean, it would be nice to give access to everyone, but that's never going to be my lane. And that was my worry is who's going to export the product? How is it going to be taken care of? It, once it passes on to someone else, like for instance, I have a distribution company that's third party in California. I have to give it to them. They have to get it tested. I have to literally go there on a daily basis and inspect make sure the air conditioner is working correctly, make sure the product is where it's supposed to be, make sure it's getting packaged how it's supposed to be packaged. So what happens when I put it on a train or a plane?
Yeah.
I can't fly off to New York on a regular Monday and go check QC on my product. Who's going to do that?
It's funny. Everybody just assumes interstate commerce happens that everything's coming from California. I've never heard anyone really bring up these points like on a plane, on a train, on cargo ships, wherever it is, the environmental differences. And like, I remember you talking about like, if you take blueberries out of the fridge, you put them on your counter and you put them back in an hour later, like it's growing mold and stuff
Yeah.
like that could easily happen to cannabis anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Especially coming to Florida.
Florida. Yeah. Yeah. I had an eighth in my car dead.
Yep.
And it only takes like an hour.
I believe that, man. I have to keep my stuff. I keep my stuff in a smell proof bag, in another bag, in like the back of my darkest closet.
Yeah. But when you go to the dispensary, for instance, say you drive far to a dispensary, you go to the Flowery, you pick up some preferred, you go stop at 7-Eleven or you go to a restaurant, get a meal, you might just kill all your terps right there. Yeah. By the time you get home, it's not the same product anymore.
I do the delivery because this way I'll let them handle it.
There you go. Yeah, it's better. They have the terp coolers and stuff, so
I mean,
they're on point.
It's convenient. I wish the AT&T delivery window would get a little bit smaller, but I understand that they have to hit the whole state. So
yeah, it's coming.
The delivery has been great, man. And like, I know part of the reason that we're filming in this hallway is you helped build out this facility. I really like. So I've known the Flowery since it was really the Garrison's kind of doing the operational thing here. I met Donovan early on. I went to the first facility and they had some really good stuff coming out of there. And I've said this on the show a lot of times. I think there is a significant amount of people who can grow good weed. I think there's a very small amount of people who can grow good weed at a large scale.
Yeah.
Right. Like anybody, I can make some bomb ass pasta from scratch for like us four.
Yeah.
You want to invite everybody else that's here, quality is going to start to go down.
It's
right.
True. It's what happens a lot.
So one of the things that I liked is you coming in here. And, you know, I've kind of inferred this from a lot of the interviews, like helping them take what they were doing there and scale it out. Because that was my biggest fear as when they were building out this facility. And like, who fucking cares my opinion? But like, I loved ordering delivery from the Flowery mainly because I was
We
friends with
care.
them.
Your opinion is
Yeah.
everything. That's what I mean. If you're a customer, that's
Oh,
the
I feel
problem
good
right
about
there. Yeah,
myself.
we care.
But yeah, like, you know, that's when I think one of the problems is with most of the companies here in Florida is they started at 100,000 square feet or 150,000 square feet. They didn't start at
Yeah,
10,000 or 5,000 or like their garage. So like trying to trying to, you know, build a Vegas buffet from scratch and make sure everybody's happy with the food, like that's near impossible.
yeah, definitely. And then they'll have it. They'll use a consultant that's like an architect who's just they don't know what they're building. They're like, okay, we need a dry room, we need a grow room, or we need 10 grow rooms, and we need a cure room. There's never a cure room in any of these places
No.
normally. If you go here, the cure room is next level.
You guys have
You
those
spend a
the
lot of money on the
up
cure
and
room.
down the
Yeah,
hanging
that's the
racks and
dry
everything.
room, but
Oh,
there's an additional cure room.
I feel
And the
like a
trim
video.
room, all the conditions stay the same throughout. And that's super important.
It's
But
awesome.
that came with experience because we learned our lesson before having to take things out of, in a grow room, take it outside, bring it into a cure room or a dry room, and realized that it degrades the product. So it's just from
Interesting.
experience, all the little things,
One of the other things I like that you said about, and I kind of got to experience it, is I remember, I think you were talking to the guys from Couch Lock about how you have so many spaces that you have to go through when you get into the building
Yeah,
before you get into the grow facility. I mean, it's you see how much I was sweating when we sat down. It's like 110 degrees outside, and
cooking.
humid as fuck. And I noticed like it was cool because we came in, we had the first room, then we went to another room, and then there was another room after that, and then even after that, like there might be one more and then the hallway. So it's like I start to realize you talking about the design build out and then I get to experience it was really cool.
Yeah,
You know,
no, it's awesome. All the DPS panels, all the panel doors, refrigerated doors here. I mean,
it's crazy, man. This room goes this hallway goes on forever.
yeah.
I remember when they were building out the shell of this building and just like I'm like, we could play football in here. It was before any of
Oh,
the
for
rooms were
sure.
in.
We were.
That's cool. So how'd you get linked up with the Flowery? Because you know, the only company really for a while that was pulling in brands in Florida was True Leaf, and like you know,
Yeah.
True Leaf has the reputation they have, and good for Ted and Caleb to get the deal that they had and get the distribution, but like they probably got a lot of hate because of that partnership, and luckily they were able to put enough of them into it that they were able to make sure
Yeah,
that
they have
the
some
QC,
separation there and they're watching over their own stuff.
which is great, and
Yeah,
trust
of
me
course. Yeah.
because there's a True Leaf by
They
my
know
house.
better. They have the experience. That's what I'm getting at. If you have those groups that have the experience, there's not too many of them out there, which is the thing. So
Yeah,
it's, you know,
I love that you were able to kind of like put your touch on it. So this way you knew your brand was going to be taken care of the way that you wanted to,
yeah,
you know? I feel like if you would have done a deal with another company, it would have been a thing where you would have had to move here or be here a lot often to get everything up to speed.
of
But
course. Yeah.
I've heard you talk about the team here that you kind of helped handpick and design the facility. Like it must have been at that point pretty easy to have the confidence in the Flowery to say, you will be good stewards of my brand. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I'm grateful every single day. The crew here is phenomenal. Head of cultivation, Brian, he's crushing it, knocking it out the park. Everyone in here is just next level. And Brian's been doing it forever. So that's the thing. He has just as much experience as me. I mean, I say he's definitely top two, top three growers in the world.
Wow.
No joke. I mean, look at the scale here.
That's true.
Look at the product. Look at the finished bags. It's crazy.
That's true, man. This is where I get most of the stuff that I smoke from. Majority
Yeah.
of the time, sometimes I'll head over to True Leaf and get the Alien Labs and Connected. But you know, the most of the preferred that's coming out of here, the Flowery brand that's coming out of here has been phenomenal. You know, I mean, we were in the rooms earlier. I'm like, I'll just take these two containers.
Yeah.
They just so happen to be preferred. When I looked, I'm like, oh, I do know
Hell
those
yeah.
strains, man. So that was one thing that I want to talk to you about. So with all your experience, and we probably should have talked about this like a half hour ago, but um how do you curate lineage, how do you curate genetics and a strain selection for a brand? Like when you first started doing this, was it a lot of just what you liked personally, and then where do
It's
you
what it all is
is
still to this day.
really?
but I'm a connoisseur. So what I like normally everyone else is gonna like, and it's new, hot most of the time. I'm always breeding, pheno hunting, so like I get to see every single strain. Plus, I've gone through all the old school strains. I know almost every strain at this point.
Are there types or any kind of lineage or strain where you're like, I don't fuck with that, I don't like those, or do you just have such a
I mean, I'm
diverse
sick
palate?
of like regular candy strains now, like LCGs and runts that just see it too much. So
Yeah,
I'm sick of that. I don't like train wrecks. I don't like things that are really powerful sativas. You know, they kind of give me anxiety when I smoke them.
yeah, they do.
So when I smell them, I relate to that. You know, I'm like, I can't smoke that.
I always tell people if you're gonna smoke something like that, if you're dealing with something, it's gonna make you deal with it.
Yeah,
Like
for
there's
sure.
no, you have to be, if you're gonna smoke a real powerful sativa, you have to be in like a good mood and it has to be a happy day and it will enhance that. But if not, you might have a little bit of a bad
Yeah. I
experience.
mean, if you notice with cannabinoids, it reacts different with everyone though. So I could smoke that and it might fuck me up bad and it might give me anxiety, but maybe you smoke it or my wife smokes it and she's goes to sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I enjoy those racy strains. Sometimes it's a nice experience, but there are certain times when like, super stressed, you got deadlines and shit. I'm like, that
Yeah.
is the worst thing in
I
the
mean, I
world.
like a little bit of the mix. You know, the hybrids are always better.
Yeah, man. You guys have a Baccio Gelato out now that is like a nice down the middle base hit that I
Yeah.
really enjoy. Like it's not a certain timer, it's an any timer that I
Yeah,
really
for
like.
sure. It's not
So
like snacks. Snacks
no,
just put you to bed.
it
The
does.
lemon tree gives me like that energy effect where it's like a sativa, but it's not strong to where it gives me the anxiety. You know, it's not too racy.
To me, that's one of the ones that I like for like movies or comedy or something because it makes me relax. It's a sativa in the sense that I still really much have my wits about me. I'm thinking straight and like my thought speed is still like up to par, but I'm nice and relaxed and I don't have like a stress in the world
Yeah.
with that one. That's what I
Well,
like about that
lights
one.
on is coming up next. That's why kind of why we shifted it over to that during the podcast. We named that on that last one we did, but
Nice.
that one gives you like that motivational high, you know, where you're sharp
Yeah.
and it's still a little sedative. You know what I mean?
I love those, man. Though that like I'm not like I said, I don't get me wrong, I love a good OG Kush. I like a lot of Kushes, but like
Yeah, OG's
there's a good
the
chance I'm
game.
going to sleep at some point after we smoke that.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
I watched a Heat playoff game probably like, 10, 12 years ago with a buddy of mine that had a great OG and I was sleeping in the middle of the third quarter.
Yeah, OG's the best.
Someone brings in I remember we brought an OG. I think it was a Flowery OG really early on. They had I think the 777 OG
Mm-hmm.
and it was during one of the fights. And I'm a old man. I got two kids already. So to watch a main event. See, here on the East Coast, main events happen at like 12:30 at night, not you West Coast guys who get them at like
Yeah,
9:30.
yeah, like
So
normal time.
yeah. So all of a sudden it's like 11:45. I'm trying to stay up for the main event. I'm like,
No way.
we
Yeah.
smoked the wrong weed. Oh,
That's me watching TV anytime I'm out.
oh well,
Don't do it.
I don't imagine you get too many opportunities to
No,
do that.
I don't really watch TV at all.
So you have kids too?
Yeah,
Oh, how old?
two boys, 8 and 12.
Very cool, man. What was it like? What is it like doing what you do and being a parent? So Ted and I had this conversation, and it's like you kind of want to balance it. Like I'm proud of what I do, and like my family is, but also like, and one thing that stood out to me that I agree with him on that's really hard is people are shitty, and you don't want your kids to have a bad experience because someone doesn't like what you do, and it's kind of like. Let's be honest, as a parent, it's kind of like fuck that person, but it's like, damn, my kid might actually like their kid a
You
lot. So
still, it's sad, but you still have to be hush hush.
yeah,
It's because of the banking stuff, and people still have a stigma against cannabis, you know. But my kids have been to my farm. My kids have watered my plants. They know what I
that's
do.
gotta be cool.
We hide the smoking. Me and my wife do laundry. That's
Yeah.
when we go smoke, you know. But we don't smoke in front of them at this
Yeah.
point. They're just too young.
It's tough, man. And I don't think there's any right answer or wrong answer with this. I think we're all still trying to figure it out. But the problem, I think the problem is as Ted explained it, like we still all want to have the best experience for our kids and we don't want our life. Like they didn't ask for that. They didn't ask for their dad to be in weed. So I'm sure they're proud of you and I'm sure they love what you do. But, you look at like and we were talking about him. I said I was influenced by Stern. Like Howard Stern's great kids growing up with all these kids hearing him on the radio, like, and
Yeah.
the backlash that they got. So it's tough, man. I feel you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, we were raised that way too, where it was so hidden from us. So we don't know what to do yet, if you know what I mean.
I feel it goes one of two ways. They're kind of like, oh, and they pretend they're okay with it. And then you have the other parent that like thinks it's the coolest thing in the world and they just end up talking your ear off.
Yeah.
And like, so I joke, but it's kind of true. Like, I used to not tell people what I did for, and I'm not even a cultivator or anything else. Like I ran a gram for a little bit and then I do the podcast. So anyone can Google it. But I'm like, I used to not tell people what I do because I was scared what they would think. Now I don't tell people what I do because I don't have that kind of time on me to talk to them about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I tell them to Google the show. There's like 300 hours of me talking about it, dude. That's
Heck yeah.
awesome, man. So going back, and we'll probably wrap this up in a little bit here, but um, bringing when you were coming to Florida, you know, I heard you talking. You have about a library of 260 strains that you've been maintaining for 15 years. First of all, how do you maintain a library of strains like that for 15 years? Like, is that a process in
So
itself?
I didn't maintain all
Okay.
260. I am holding 260
Okay.
around
See, I don't
that
know
at
anything.
this time, but I have held 15, 20 throughout those years.
Yeah.
So shit hits the fan, you take a little snip, put it in a bag, wrap it in a paper towel, and put it in your fridge, clone it. I mean, I've had to do a million different things.
How do you when the Florida opportunity comes up and you know the difference in Florida and here, how do you prepare for what you're going to bring to Florida? How do you curate
The
what
genetics.
yeah, how do
So
you
we're
curate
pheno hunting stuff here as we speak. That's the best thing about this company is they're willing to create, pheno hunt. That's all that costs tons of money.
it's all space that could be used for commercial
Yeah,
for shit
of
that will
course.
sell.
So we're
Yeah,
pheno hunting hundreds of seeds here right now. So we're finding genetics that are in my library or other brands' libraries at this point on site.
very cool.
Yeah.
Is that what is your favorite? Is that one of your favorite things to do? Is just do the pheno hunting or
Breeding, pheno hunting, growing, seeing new strain. I just love being in the grow.
okay?
But yeah, pheno hunting's the best because production sucks, right? You're looking at it's like think if you were just growing corn, you'd be so bored of it like
Yeah.
after a couple runs. We get new strain, it's like, oh, look at this, it's purple. Look at it, smells like something we remember, it's just exciting.
What direction are you starting to go in? So you talk about kind of being over the desserts and stuff like that. Are we going back in time to some of the old school strains? Are
Trying
we
gas, it's really hard to find like great OG crosses. I mean, we love Skittles, of course. Just anything that smokes really good. There's a lot of strain, like a lot of green weed smokes better than a lot of this purple weed out
yeah.
there. So we're trying to find green weed that people actually like.
Most of the stuff that I like is like that bright neon green, almost to the whitish hue.
Yeah.
Like, so I think a lot of the stuff I like because I do like the citrusy stuff has like the orange on it, but like I don't. I'm trying to think of most stuff. No, it's not really purple.
It's
Like
cleaner. It's just cleaner smoke. It usually burns better. It's weird. Green weed is better. That's my opinion.
dude, I'm telling you, I told you one before we started recording. Like my only beef with the Flowery is I'm like everything I like, nobody seems to buy because every time I find something I like, they rotate it out and they bring in something new. Like they had a sour strawberry haze here for a while that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
They had a mimosa early on that was awesome in Florida. You know, I love all that citrusy stuff, and I feel like I'm on an island, especially here in Florida.
So we're basically tracking data at this point. What do people want? We're
Yeah.
trying to listen to what the people say. And there's a lot of opinions
I
out
don't
there.
like the people because they don't like what I like.
There's a lot of opinions out there though, right? So like it's hard being a cultivator or someone even behind the desk here trying to figure out what should be in these grow rooms at all times. So right now it's just collecting data, letting everyone try a million different strains because that's what they're asking for new stuff 24/7. It's not that reasonable to always be doing that, but that's the shot here. That's what we do in California. We have to, or we wouldn't even be able to compete in the rec market. We have to drop strains like every single quarter.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy, man. Because you look at like, most people when they find something they like, they want to stick with it. But for some reason, weed, I think because there is a hype culture around it, that is why it's that way. Like all of a sudden and that comes from when it was scarce and illegal, I believe, because it's like, oh, I got this new hot shit. How'd you get that? I don't think like I don't feel like it should be that way anymore. Because how'd you get that? Well, I went down to Melrose and they have a store that sells it. It's not as cool anymore. Now
Yeah.
it should just really be about quality, about the product, because we
Consistency.
have access now. Access is what made it cool.
Yeah, for sure. But
So
what's going on is there's all these new buyers. So like there's a strain that you love and we're producing it at a high rate, but the sales start declining because there's all this new stuff coming out
yeah.
from another dispensary or even this dispensary. So this one could get dropped off, but it probably will circle back at some point. That's the thing.
Do you
If
have
it sticks, some strains stick.
yeah,
Lemon tree is being produced pretty much nonstop right now.
I've been happy
People
about that.
go crazy about lemon tree here.
Yeah, my birthday
Thank
is
God, because it's great.
my birthday is next Sunday, and I already have it in my cart that I gotta go check out. I got a couple lemon tree doinks in there.
Hell yeah.
So
Thank you. Appreciate the
dude,
support.
you were the only well, you're the only one in Florida that's actually putting out something that smokes like a cigar to me. So like to me, there are different levels of smoking when I want to smoke. There is the utilitarian version where I smoke it like a dock worker, smoking a cigarette, go out back, kind of hit it, let it do its thing, go back and do whatever I was doing. And then there's always that end of the night outside, feet up on the patio table. And I like something a little bigger and slower burning because I did smoke cigars before I smoked weed.
Yeah.
And there is just something relaxing about that rhythmic breathing, and that 2 gram doink that you're putting out is the only thing in the state that does that right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
No, I do the same thing. That's all we smoke.
Yeah,
That's we like Mike's on my team. Shout out like Mike. I don't know if you know who he
I
is, but
don't.
he rolls. We do 3.5 grammers.
Okay.
Same exact style. He came and trained everyone here to
Okay.
roll the 2 grammers.
I wish I said in
That's
on
how
it.
we did it. Yeah. So you let those sit, you sit back, relax, you get to puff on it, you let it sit and burn. It's fine. It'll stay burning.
Yep.
Slow. It won't burn down the joint.
Dude, I once accidentally, so I met this girl. I forget her name, but she calls herself the cannabis sommelier. But in the sense that she has realized that she can find wines with similar terpene profiles to cannabis.
Yeah. I've
And
heard that before.
a couple friends brought over a bottle of wine one night. We had them over for dinner. We went outside and smoked, a joint, and we accidentally matched terpene profiles. Like, and I only know we did that because it was like every time you went back and forth from one, it complemented each other. And like
Yeah.
to me, those doinks, the bigger ones, especially from a joint, like that's when you actually get more of the flavor and like more of the experience with the
Yeah.
weed. People think a lot of us just do it because it's more weed, like probably, but also it's just a better smoke too.
I agree.
So
100%. That was kind of the point, slow burning. It doesn't just torch up the terps. When it's real tiny, it just burns right through it and gets too hot. And when it gets
yeah.
too hot, it eats up the terps.
Dude, I remember watching Roll BMC's Instagram back in the day and him talking about,
He's a legend.
just how to fix. So, like, this is right when I was really starting to really learn how to roll. Like, I couldn't roll for like 8 years. And then I had a friend of mine who works out in California. He's been, he's my black market fan, grew up here, moved to Colorado, moved to California. And just one day he taught me one little trick, like a little fold at the end of the crutch that would
Where you
just,
pinch it.
yeah, it just grabs the paper.
Yeah.
Life changing.
Yeah.
So,
Same. Mike taught me that. I've been because I had him rolling all my joints, and he's like, "No, I'm just gonna show you this." And
yeah,
boom, done.
that little pinch that just kind of takes the paper over with it. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And I go, because he's been trying to teach me to roll forever. I'm like, you couldn't tell me this 6 years ago, bro. Like I've been
I
struggling.
know. Yeah.
So what is the future for Preferred right now? You're in 4 states, you're building it brick by brick. You're putting out quality in 4 states. You're building the brand for yourself. You were on the ground taking pictures in the grow rooms, helping build out the facilities. A lot of it is you. How much are you looking to build out a team that can kind of scale you? How much are you looking to just keep doing what you're doing every day? What does the future of Preferred look like?
Whatever it takes to keep doing what I'm doing every day, to be
I
honest.
love it, man.
That's the goal. If we can keep the quality up to standard and keep the team fed and rolling and we can all build together, that's what we're shooting for.
As you grow and build the company, maybe you're in 30 states at some point. Do you think your role will always be product and in the garden? Do you think, do you ever think you'll be out of that role, or is that something you always want to
I
make
got
sure you're
anxiety
touching?
about that. I think it's a lot of pressure. I think about that a lot. Am I going to end up having to just go from facility to facility, from state to state, just to QC, and I can't be inside of here anymore? Might happen. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, I can find the person that can help me with that.
I think that's a challenge for someone like you right now, because as we said in the beginning of this podcast, there are gangsters on both sides of the fence. And like, I'm sure there are really good business people out there that can build the business side of you and do the deals and the structures and everything else. But for you to find someone that you can basically help, help raise your baby, it's almost like the way that you found your wife and raised your kids, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to trust you the way that I trust my family to make sure that you are going to be a good steward of this business. And it's not like posting a job ad on Indeed. Like, I feel like you're just going to naturally meet that person, hopefully one day, and allow
Hopefully,
that to
yeah,
happen.
yeah, and
So
hopefully things don't get weird. A lot of times I've been through that. You know, partnerships are tough.
they are,
They're
man.
very tough.
The people you work with, you see them more than your family. So
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
man. So, dude, I really appreciate you sitting down. There's so much more I can talk to you about, but I know we're getting late. I got to see the kids. You got to eat dinner.
All good.
Anytime you're in town, I would love to do this again.
For sure.
Anything I can do to help the brand or come out to California, man, I had a blast.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Absolutely, dude.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you to everybody at home. It's been another episode of Elevate Your Grind. We're out.